on.
Awesome.
Hi, Izzy.
Hey, how's everyone doing? Good to meet you.
Welcome. Thank you so much for agreeing to come on my little homemade podcast that we're going to make big because it's going to be free world therapy.
I love that. That's so exciting. Therapy for everyone because I feel like everyone needs therapy.
And for free because I feel like if I get the right so like I started this other page that I actually saw your stuff on through someone else.
Mm-hmm.
Um because like I put out a lot of content, but like my strengths are actually doing live therapy. So I want to get it to a place where people can just call in like a radio live and be anonymous or not and ask questions. So you, I think, were amazing because, obviously mental health is still a taboo for a lot of communities, cultures, or just anyone in general because it just is.
Definitely.
And you talked about your story with suicide. Oh, so trigger warning, trigger warning.
Yes.
We're going to be talking about suicidal ideation, suicidal planning attempts, and how creativity, music, and other things, or many things, can help you, manifest that energy elsewhere. Does that sound about right?
Pretty much. Yeah, you got to the point.
Okay, so tell us about your story. I saw one of your videos somewhere that, you were just kind of talking about that, about how you had your struggles, and you had ideation, had some attempts, and then so tell the people who don't know anything about that a little bit about that.
Like, like the suicide stuff and all that.
Whatever is like your story when you kind of tell people your story about who you are in relation to mental health, and then I'll ask about the creativity stuff after.
Yeah. Dang. Well, I feel like it's so much of it. Um, there's so much to the story. But I mean,
Would it be better if I asked questions, or do you want to start with
um,
something?
I can give like a general overview, I
Okay.
guess, of yeah. So I guess it's well, I remember when I was younger, like in elementary school, I was being bullied a lot, and it made me feel very insecure and just very like targeted as a person. And I didn't know what to do with myself. I felt very, and I don't remember much of my childhood per se, but I do remember the fact that people were making me feel like I wasn't worth anything, or making me feel like I was just a terrible person, but I don't know what I was doing wrong. Like I was just being myself, and a lot of times people don't like when you're yourself, and I feel like a lot of times you get judged for that. Even as an adult, like people will still make fun of you for being proud of yourself
Do
and
you
being.
feel like you were comfortable with who you were early on? And because a lot of people are not, or do you feel like, and
I
that's what people didn't like, or what do you think was triggering people about you?
I really, and I mean, I think about it to this day, and I really can't pinpoint it to one thing. I don't know. I just I feel like everyone around me was just always very. They wanted to be something, or they wanted attention, or I don't know what it was. I don't know what little kids were like going on in their minds. I really can't remember, but I was just I mean like I
Wait,
was
how old were you then? That was how old?
I think I was like around 7, 6. It was
Oh, so super young. Okay, so fast
yeah,
forward. So that early on, you already actually had this ideation happening, even though you didn't really understand it. You knew that much.
yeah, I didn't understand it, but I remember I told myself like I don't want to be living here anymore because I don't like my life. I don't like the people I'm around. Like the only people that really comforted me were my family because they always been there for me. But like people at school, I didn't have many friends either, and the friends that I didn't have, they weren't really friends. They were more like they just they made me feel very insecure about myself, and it led on to a lot of insecurity later on in my life, which I'm still struggling with, I think. But I feel like that's where it really started for me, or at least that's where I remember it starting, because I've ever since then I always felt like I was never good enough, or I was never like something worth living and all that, like stuff
It's like
that
low
feel
self-esteem stuff, which everybody struggles with to some
that
degree.
yeah, yeah. And and that made me feel like I wanted to hurt myself because I didn't know where else to channel that anger or that sadness that I was feeling. Because I would always come crying, or I would always cry at school, or I would always be crying, coming home crying, and then my mom would be like concerned, like, "Why are you crying so much?" And I felt like I couldn't tell like my own parents because the people at school would threaten me like to do something to me if I ever like was told people what was really happening to me, and I always felt like I couldn't really express myself or tell the truth in some kind of way, and I had that anger and that sadness held in me because I couldn't really tell anyone for that reason, and I didn't like that, and I didn't know what to do with it, and so I wanted to hurt myself, and
Yeah,
I
because like if you don't have somewhere to output real frustration, it's gonna, it's gonna rear its ugly head somewhere, right? You can't just
yeah.
ignore it.
Yeah, exactly. And at the time, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with that, with those emotions, and I was really lost in that realm. But yeah, so I wanted to like hurt myself, and I was like thinking about like even stabbing myself. I tried stabbing myself. It was, sorry, trigger warning, but it
Trigger
was
warning, trigger warning.
yeah. But I was very much like,
At what age did you try to stab yourself?
I feel like this was, I want to say like maybe 10, 11. It was really young, but I
So,
remember.
okay, here's something that I want to run by you, which may or may not apply to you. But so
Mm,
I've been working with college students at UC's, Cal State, city colleges, working with the suicidal population specifically for the past like 8 years, right? And now I want to kind of end my positions there, and I want to take this free world therapy on the road, especially to the underserved populations. And one thing I think with the suicidal students is that um, a lot of it, and you probably know a lot of people since you're, hopefully have found other people that you can find support. A lot of it is also learned behaviors of frustration, of keeping in the frustration from our family or culturally or societally or socially or whatever different kind of right?
yeah.
So that, and then sometimes a suicidal ideation too. It's just when people feel so hopeless or helpless, like
Yes.
that's it makes sense why we would go there. I just want people to know it's normal for you to go there, but because we make it so taboo, and sometimes we even also make people more favorable to die from an overdose than a suicide because the shame around it is somehow more weirdly accepted, which makes no sense,
Mm-hmm.
because they, yeah.
Yeah, I totally. That makes sense because a lot of times it's like, what do you do with when you feel that way and you feel like you can't express yourself because of what you learned in your environment and what you've heard around like your family or your friends or wherever you spend your most of the time. If they have like a negative viewpoint on mental health, you're gonna feel obligated to not want to talk about it because they're gonna probably make you feel bad or make you
Yeah,
feel.
yeah, and I have a lot of students who just their family culture, regardless of where they were from,
Mm-hmm.
the way the family thought of it was just not okay. So not only was mental health not okay, suicidal feelings was not okay. It's just you're not even allowed to talk.
Oh, no.
Okay, we are resumed. What were
Okay.
we talking about? We had technical difficulties.
Oh yeah, you were talking about how a lot of people in that world, like the suicidal ideation or attempts and all that stuff, that the culture really impacts or the way that they are exposed to it can impact the way they express their emotions or frustrations and stuff like that.
Yeah, and anytime again we are suppressed so much, which we really are
Mm.
still, even with my college age students, where you would think people are younger now, they're so open to therapy, so they're all better. But it's like, no, people often forget the transgenerational trauma is not gone half the time.
Yeah, a lot of times it's some people don't even know that what they're saying or doing might be not, well, maybe wrong in a sense because they they continue to pass on that taboo feeling of not talking about emotions or not talking about the way you feel, or making you feel like you have to keep it inside, or like quote unquote toughen up. And it's
Yeah.
just it builds a lot of internal anger, I feel like,
But I
within.
think people underestimate how much that toughen up attitude has not gone away still. It still
Yeah,
exists in a lot of families.
it does. Unfortunately, yeah. A lot of times, um, well, yeah, I think in a lot of cultures, well, I would say, because, well, I'm Mexican, but I'm lucky enough that my family, I feel like we've all mentally experienced something to the point where, like, they're like, oh, you know what, mental health is important. But in a lot of other people's families and cultures, you know,
Mexican, born here or there?
my parents were not born here. They were born in Mexico, but I was born here. My siblings were as well. Yeah, but yeah, and then what was I saying? All right, so
So I'm Middle Eastern, so it's very similar to the Hispanic culture where it is so many dynamics that are at play with like uh male female dynamics and then just mental health dynamics, and it's, it's
yeah,
very distinct.
I think much of the time it's like they we think that mental health is not real, or it's not something that should be taken seriously, because a lot of time it's like you're not, a lot of things. What I hear the most is that from other people is that their families or whoever it is that they're with tell them, like, oh, you're not doing enough, like go out and do something, or you're not keeping yourself busy, you're in your own head too much. But I feel like in reality, sometimes those emotions, you can't really control them, even when you are like doing something actively, like when you're at work or when you're at school. Like those thoughts and those emotions, they can't go away. At least with me personally, I don't think it goes away just by doing an activity. Like it might
No,
take
it
time.
doesn't. Maybe for some people and maybe temporarily, but it's like you're not dealing with the root of the problem. You're not doing real trauma treatment to keep it from coming back. Of course, we can all go and distract ourselves in a relationship or in a job or in an addictive behavior like sex, drugs, and rock and roll, right?
Right. It's like that stuff is so normalized and it's so regular to feel that way that we don't see it as wrong. It's just like it's just the way it is. But that way is not the best way to come about things like mental health, because it can be so detrimental to your own head, and it makes you feel so worthless and so less of yourself, and it's never going to help, and it's just going to keep you, and it's just going to keep passing on until someone like says that this is wrong, and it's time to actually recognize these things instead of continuing to let other people in your family or friends feel that way and make them do more like terrible decisions or things about to themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's why I'm like grateful for people like you who can talk about it in a way that people can relate to and understand, because it's important that more people speak up. And I like it when celebrities speak up because that always surprises people, like, oh my god, it's like, yeah, they're just fucking people, it's not that serious, everyone relax. It's like, everybody's going through the same shit, and like, ugh.
Exactly. I think that a lot of the times we idolize these people and we make them, like there's nothing wrong with people. I even like when I meet people for the first time, I'm like I I don't see them as real people. They just seem like unreal to me until I get to know them more. I realize that they have problems and they have insecurities and stuff that everyone else deals with. So it's like, no one's perfect and no one's gonna be perfect ever. So,
So you're still falling in trap and thinking people are.
oh no.
No, okay, good.
There you go.
I need to check my Wi-Fi because I should have. Let me see. Okay. But yeah, like everybody's dealing with the same stuff. So we need to just know that. And okay, so take us a little bit more through your journey with suicidal ideation. So
All
that
right.
was like early on, and then after that, where was the next stop?
After that, I was fast forward to when I was about 17, or like
How old are
high
you
school.
now?
I'm 23 now.
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't know how long ago that was, like
5
23,
years ago,
5
about
years,
6. Yeah.
about like 17, 2017. I was feeling very depressed. I think very depressed, and that led to a lot of suicidal ideation. And this time, actually, my mom wanted me to go talk to a doctor, and they wanted me to go talk to, and then I went to talk to the doctor, and the doctor told me, I think you're experiencing depression. And I didn't know what depression was at the time, but but he was describing it to me, and I realized I've been feeling this way for so long, but I just never put a term to what I was feeling. And I finally learned what
So
depression.
wait, what? Okay, wait. For the people who might be in your shoes,
Mhm.
what was those things that the
Well,
doctor ended up diagnosing?
so me personally, I was feeling um loses like they lose interest in activities, and
Yeah.
they feel just very, I don't know what the word is, like they don't like,
Apathetic?
yeah, they're not empathetic, and there's something else that I just forget the word. I don't remember. I
Okay.
remember there was isolation, which was what I was doing. I was isolating myself a lot. I was not talking to people. I was hopeless. That was another one. I was feeling very hopeless. Um, I just didn't feel very. I wasn't eating much, and I wasn't really having any appetite for anything. And the thing that usually made me happy would not, and I would feel like I couldn't do anything, and I was terrible at everything, and I blame myself on it. I blame everything on myself, like everything was my fault. I was the one that was doing everything wrong, and that was what I was mainly feeling, and that really got to my head, and it made me feel like I had to hurt myself again to release that pain in some way, because what I was feeling
Trigger warning, trigger warning. Wait, the first time you said you tried to stab yourself, you were when you were little?
when I was around, like, I think like 10 or 11 or 12, one of those years. I don't really remember, but I just remember
Did you
trying.
end up cutting yourself or not? You aborted mission.
Oh, I'm sorry, say it again.
I said, did you end up cutting yourself or you aborted mission?
That time I didn't, because I don't know what stopped me. I think it was the thought of like dying stopped me. I don't know. But then I think, well, yeah, 2017, well, when I was like 17, I was I started to harm myself again, but not like stabbing. I'm like I was cutting my skin a lot.
Oh, were
Which,
you a cutter? Yeah.
yeah, it's very common within like
Yeah.
people who are depressed. I realized, because I talked to other people, and they had the same experiences, like they were cutting or pulling their hair, or like, like bruising themselves, which I was also a victim of. I was starting to bruise myself on purpose, like it's terrible.
And I'm glad you brought that up because that's another level of when you suppress your emotions. It has to come out somewhere. So it does.
Yeah, I was feeling very angry, because usually I don't really like yell or do anything of that sorts. And the way I express myself is either like I had to channel it some other way to take that anger out. And at that time, I was just cutting and bruising and just pulling some of my hair, and it was just terrible. But that's the way I felt a little bit better, because at least that pain wasn't so strong anymore. It was still there, but it kind of released some anger that I was feeling.
Yeah, so that would be the different things I would talk to my students about, where they would talk about how it would be a release sometimes, sometimes it would be a punishment, sometimes it would be just to feel something. What was it for you?
For me, it was definitely, I think, a release, because I think
All that
it,
suppression?
that suppression was very um, strong, and I think the release of doing that stuff helped, in not in a healthy way, but it made me feel it was less of it inside me. So I just,
Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so wait, you said you were cutting and then what was the attempt?
Oh,
Trigger warning.
yeah. The attempt for me at that time, I was taking a lot of like painkillers, and I thought that that was another way to go out, like just overdose on pain medication. And I forget how many I took, but it was a lot. And I remember I woke up the next day really upset because I was still alive, and I was like, "Why am I still here? I thought this was supposed to like be the end yesterday." But that was like my second attempt, I think. Yeah, of it, and I didn't. Nothing. Well, nothing happened after that. No, actually, no. I did go to the doctor because I had to go. I think I went to group therapy afterwards, like around that same time. I don't know if it was before or after this attempt, but I think it was. Um, I think it was after. I don't remember. But I was also like hearing a lot of people talk to me, like a lot of like internal voices, if that makes sense. That made me feel like I had to make like hurt myself, or I had to be something, like made me feel like a victim, or try to make me feel even more worthless than I already felt like. And I feel like that also encouraged me to try to overdose, because I was also taking a lot of painkillers to just because I didn't know, like before, like that pain was so strong. I was trying as anything I could to like get rid of that physical.
Well, one of the main reason people do painkillers is not because of physical pain, but emotional pain.
Yeah, it's like a lot of times it relaxed in a way, but I didn't. I knew it was wrong, but I still did it because I didn't know what else to do. I was trying my best to like get rid of it by doing other things, but it couldn't. I couldn't do it. And I felt like I was a very weak person, but that was one way that I've dealt with a lot of pain, because it made me feel kind of less anxious about everything. So yeah, that's one thing that happened.
Okay. And then did you get consistent therapy after that or at any point in there?
Not well. I went to group therapy for about a month or 2 months. I forget how long it was, but it was just me. I remember the first day I went, I was so embarrassed because I ended up crying like the whole session, and I
Oh.
didn't know what to say. Like, I'm so sorry, but the therapist was looking at me like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." Like, I didn't know what to tell her. I was trying to tell her everything, but as I was telling her everything, like my emotions just took the best of me, and they splattered everywhere. Um, but the next time there was like more people, and there was more people again, and we ended up just talking about our struggles. And there's a lot of people with like a lot of, even like, well, I don't want to compare experiences, but like people who had pretty bad experiences with suicide or with depression or anxiety, or any of that stuff. And I was hearing all these stories, and I was like, wow, I didn't even think that was possible. But a lot of people really do hurt themselves, and really just make it make their lives feel like so hopeless and worthless and stuff like that. And it was crazy to hear that other people felt the same way. And
Yeah,
uh,
and that's why I love to refer people to group therapy because I can do great work with you, but I can't do that for you, which is so important for people to just hear, you know?
yeah, I love group therapy because you get to talk to people about situations without feeling judged, because I think a
Yeah,
lot of,
and they're going through it at the same time as you, which is so important.
yeah, that's very true. I didn't consider that, but they are going through it at the exact same time you are, so they know exactly what you're feeling. Well, maybe not exactly, but they feel probably a lot similar to what you're feeling.
I should
And
start a free group actually, but
free
I
group,
don't know if it's like too risky with like, I mean, they can't have active suicidal ideation, you know?
right? Yeah, but I love the group therapy. It's one of the best things I think that I've
Yeah.
had. And yeah, and I loved it. I just thought it was one of the best experiences. I still love it to this day. I don't do group therapy right anymore, but when I did, it was really helpful in that time being. And yeah, I love the
So,
people.
okay, so it was helpful kind of like crisis management, right?
Hmm.
And then when was the next time and why?
The next time was when I was 20, and yeah, around 2021 or 2020. Um, and this time
Trigger warning.
yeah, trigger warning again, sorry. I tried to
Don't be
overdose
sorry.
right, on painkillers, but these were like stronger. I think they were like prescribed. I don't know where I even got these painkillers from. I don't remember. I see, like a lot of stuff is like such a blur sometimes, but I remember
Because
how.
you needed to soothe your emotional pain. That's why.
Yeah, yeah, right. But this time I overdosed again. With the painkillers. At this time I remember feeling like I told myself like this is my last day. Like this is it for me. Like I was just sitting down like I'm done, and I was feeling very hopeless and worthless because it seemed like everything I was doing was wrong. You know, those symptoms of feeling like you're worthless and hopeless and everything is just going wrong. So that stuff was getting into my head again. And it's one time, like I think it was at nighttime, and then I started to cut myself again because I hadn't cut myself for a few months, and I started resuming around this same time. And you
Is
know,
it a certain time of the season, certain time of year?
um for me, no, it was usually like a year round thing, unfortunately. But I think this was during the summer, if I'm not mistaken, because school hadn't started or anything like that. But I remember that I was feeling that way, and then I was hurt, like cutting myself, and I was trying to listen to music to get my mind off it, but that wasn't working. And I think it's because the music was also like very sad itself. Um, but yeah, so I remember I took like this bottle of painkillers, and I just like took a whole like two handfuls. I don't remember how much it was, but it was a lot of pills, a lot more than the last time. And I ended up taking all those, like almost like more than half of the bottle in one go. And my body was like, it instantly regretted it because I started like, I don't know if this is TMI, but I started like, my body tried to like bring
Get
it
it
back,
out?
and it was really bad. And I didn't go to sleep for that night, obviously, and I was just in pain the whole time. I was going in and out of the restroom trying to like my body just trying to like take out the medication, but I didn't want it to. Um, and then later on that day, my mom, like my mom have always been there for me, and I'm so grateful for that. But my mom called me, and I told her like I was feeling sick, and and she saw me, and she said that I need to take you to the emergency room, and she did. And I forget what was it. I went to the emergency room, and then they asked me why, and then I told them, oh, I just had a headache. But I feel like they didn't believe me because they could tell that I was lying. Like, why would someone take that many pills for that a small headache or like a migraine? But they told me like if you left this in your system for a few more hours, you could have died. And I was like, well, I guess that was the point. But I didn't tell them that. But that was like the reason. Um, but yeah, I ended up being in a hospital. They knew it was like a suicide attempt because they put me like under lockdown, and they
Because it
left.
had a history as well.
Yes, and they told them. Well, I don't know if they knew about. Actually, they did know about my history of depression. But gonna say, yeah, I went to the. So sorry, I
Was that
mixed up.
your sorry, was that your second time getting 35150?
Um, I'm not sure. I think it was my first time, but I
The
remember,
3-day hold? Okay.
yeah, that I was on hold, and I remember that they didn't even let me like get the remote for the television because they're very cautious of what you are around. Like if you're like, in there for a suicide attempt, they're not gonna let you have anything near you, like any like
That could be used as a weapon.
yeah, any strings or any like anything sharp or anything that you could potentially use to harm yourself, which is a lot of things surprisingly. But yeah, I was there for 24 hours and I got transferred to a different hospital, and I was there for about, I don't know, like 3 4 days. And I remember my mom called me, and they were very worried, and I was like, my family's so sweet. Um, but yeah, I was in there for another 3 days, and
Was
my
there anything soothing about being in there? Because I think people don't, people are so scared to go to the hospital when they have these suicidal ideations that some people like it. Some people think it was like the break they needed.
I liked it personally because I didn't have my phone. I didn't have any outside contact with the world. It was just me and the other patients there, and there was nothing except the television that played like TV. That's it. And I at first I was like, what am I gonna do here for like the entire day? Just like sit and watch TV, because usually I'm a person who goes and does like keeps herself busy, and doing that was very different from what I was used to. But for me, surprisingly, it was very relaxing and very soothing.
Yeah, see, so it's for I want people to know like you're you're avoidant of it or you're suffering by yourself, but it could be very therapeutic.
Yes, it could be. And I was feeling that way because nothing was happening. And, I feel like so much stigma goes against mental institutions, because a lot of time people think, oh, it's like for people that are crazy, or like who are can't blend in with society. But really, like, these people are the sweetest people you'll ever meet, because they're
Not
so loving.
always though, not always. Sometimes. And
They're
especially for populations that have been handled roughly by police or whatever, they get triggered, you know? So it's like I think the best case scenario is like you go there voluntarily and you call and check and make sure you're not waiting and holding so you can go get some care. But, you know, some people get triggered because people do sometimes have to be careful and they handle people a certain way. So I get it. It's all,
all
it's
different.
all, yeah.
Yeah, I think there are some people I remember that weren't like the nicest people, because like, oh, their mental illness. Like, there was this lady, she had, I think she had schizophrenia, and she was very much out of touch with everything around her, and she would not want anything. She wouldn't want anyone touching her, or anyone like being around her. So yeah, that was, and she was like something I remember, because she would always come up to people and just stare at them, or just look at you. And I was afraid she was gonna come to me, but a lot of the people in there were like Hispanic or Latino, and she was, I think she was Caucasian, I'm not sure, but she would always make like these racist remarks against like the workers and the patients there. And by the end, because she was also going to be transferred out, I remember, and she ended up being transferred out. But the last thing she said, I think, was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry for everything that I did." As I like, her entire character switched. Like, she became like this very forgiving and apologetic person. But during the time
On
I
the
was,
way out, on the way out.
yeah, and I felt like so bad, because so much, like, her life is gonna be like that for so long, like just going in and out of hospitals, because she can't be in society because for those reasons. And she's gonna harm people. And I feel like a lot of times that does happen with mentally ill people. Like, sometimes they end up being dangerous to people, and they end up being very much harmful, and it's hard for them to be in society without getting in trouble constantly. And people like that remind me, like, a lot of the times it's, you have to take it with a grain of salt, because mental health is important, but these people, they're not going to be the sweetest to you. But you just know that they're not also in touch with reality at times, so it's not really them. Sometimes it's something else that's influencing them to feel that way. So that's how I see it when I see stuff like that happen. But yeah, she was being transferred out, and she was being taken to a different hospital. And I was just there watching her, like, I never knew you were capable of being so nice all of a sudden. But she was. And yeah, that's all I remember
It
from her.
exists. People can be nice.
Yeah, people can.
So, so what would you okay, so did you get therapy or was music your therapy at
Oh,
any point?
I think music was my therapy. I think music has always been there for me. It's the one thing in my life that's consistently been just, it always helped me in any situation. And I also did do therapy in those hospitals. I don't think I mentioned this, but I also went, after that hospital, I went to a different one. That one I was there for a longer period of time. It was like that was about like half, like 2 3 weeks, like almost a month I was
Oh,
there. And
okay, so you did like a little program.
I not sure. I remember they just told me to go, and I wanted to leave, but they wanted me to stay because they thought I had more than depression. Because this was the first time where a doctor thought I had bipolar disorder, but I didn't know. what it was either at the time. So I was just like confused as to what was going on.
Do you
Um,
agree with that diagnosis?
I don't know what I talked to like years later. I talked to another doctor, and because of the same symptoms almost, but she saw me like in a manic episode, which I didn't know what it was either, surprisingly. But I know that what I was feeling was, I thought it was normal to me, and I thought it was something that people felt all the time. But she was telling me like, I think you're having a manic episode, and I think she diagnosed me.
Manic or hypomanic? You said you were like dissociating, or was it like how?
It
What
was
was like the scariest symptom for you?
I think the scariest symptom was that I didn't want to go to sleep. I didn't want to eat. I was trying to do like things that are kind of risky and
Okay. Yeah, so
dangerous.
that could be a manic episode, but it could also, yeah. So, and this was, how old were you when it happened?
Oh, this was recent. This was in 2021. So I was 21.
Yeah, because usually you might have an episode in your early 20s because that's when it kind of sets. But then as you get older, it gets better for the most part, especially if you're kind of having your outlets and keeping a very strict routine for bipolar. But also, I personally believe that everybody has PTSD, and all these things, bipolar, depression, OCD, are just symptoms of our post traumatic stress from our lives, from our experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that we have that language to talk about what we're experiencing, but all they are nervous system adaptive, maladaptive to our experiences. And that's all. It's like us trying to cure ourselves, us trying to soothe ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it might show in depression, it might show in anxiety, it might show in bipolarity. And, it
Yeah,
is, there's reasons for all of it. Sometimes it's some genetic factor, but a lot of environmental and both.
that's true. I think it's a lot of environmental and stuff that
Yeah.
you in life, because I heavily believe that I think experiences and things that people experience is what makes you who you are in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like that all the time, or pretty much all my life. But yeah, I remember like another symptom that really terrified me personally was that I was, hearing like having like almost psychosis, like having a break with reality, which I didn't think I was having, and but I was, but I didn't know it was that until I talked to the doctor, because I thought it was like normal, but it was not. And I was like, really? I didn't know that. So yeah, I think that was the craziest experience or symptom that I had, because it wouldn't go away. It was a constant thing that I kept experiencing, especially during like mania. I don't know if it's mania, but that's what it was, and that's what kept me feeling like on edge a lot of time, and a lot of paranoia came
How
from.
long did that last for?
Um, it always varied. Like sometimes it would come for a week, sometimes it would come for days. It was never like a specific amount of time. It always varied. Um, but it would also come during times where I wasn't in a manic or depressive episode. It was always it came like when I was feeling like stagnant, or like, yeah, it never like went away completely. Um, but yeah, I remember feeling like that a lot of the time, and then she like told me, you know, she told me all these different like possible things I might have, but I think the one that I really have is like, well, I don't want to say I have it, but like I talked to like three different people, and I think it's schizoaffective bipolar type or something like that. But that's what I've been hearing a lot from different
Sounds
people.
about right, doctor.
Yeah, so I don't know, and that's what I was hearing, and then they were telling me like the symptoms and all that stuff, and it seemed pretty accurate to it fit the description of what I was experiencing. So then I realized maybe I do have this. I'm not sure.
Well,
But
I always try to tell my students because like it can be very healing to admit you have it or resonate with it, or some people are like don't like it. So where are you at on that scale?
Me at first I had a hard time. Actually, sorry. I'm gonna charge my phone really quick. It's on
Yeah.
2%. Give me 1
Should I,
second.
should I pause it?
Yeah, just for a second. Yeah. So where was I? Oh yeah. So the diagnosis that they gave me was that that it was like schizoaffective, and I didn't know. I never know what these diagnoses mean until they tell me in depth, and I look into it myself. And so yeah, I think the description fit to me personally because some of the symptoms were having psychosis even when you're not in a manic or in a high or low state,
Okay. Yeah,
and
yeah.
which is what I was having.
Okay.
Having experienced psychosis and hearing people talk to me or hearing or feeling things or saying things that weren't really there according to other people, but I believe to be there, even though it might not be real to other people. It seemed very real to me because I thought who I was looking at was a real person or a real thing, or I would see like incomplete parts of bodies or incomplete parts of people's faces, and sometimes I never like saw the face, but I will always hear the voice like next to me. It was very strange. But I was describing that to like the doctor, and they were like, "This is schizoaffective because, yeah, some psychotic symptoms, but not during your high or low state."
Not, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But so that's what I was
So do
experiencing.
you feel, so how do you, so keep talking. How do you feel about that then now?
Um I feel a little bit more accepting about it because now it feels like I understand it more and I know how to cope with it or deal with it more.
Okay.
And I've learned how to hone it, control it, or express it in a much better and healthier way. Um
How?
like just writing about it and making music about it and
Tell
singing.
us about your music. Okay, okay. So you got your therapies and group therapies and programs when you kind of had an incident, and then outside of that, it's been kind of music.
Yeah, like all that stuff has always been temporary. But I think music is always a factor in my life that's been consistent and helpful for me because, you know, whether it was singing or playing guitar or piano or just like making up songs. Like I remember very young and making up songs or just going with it, singing for so long, like just continue that song like for as long as I can. Like I would test myself to see how long I could continue that song for, but it would help me and it would make me feel good about myself. It would make me feel like I was, worth something because I felt like it was something that gave me some form of like soothing energy in a way. Yeah.
What kind of music are you into?
Um. Oh my gosh, I feel like I'm at this point. I'm into a whole bunch of music. But I remember I was really into like I think I was really into like rock music, like 60s, 70s stuff when I was younger, like the classic rock, like Beatles and the Stones and all those people. And then I got it really into like the 90s and grunge.
Oh no,
Okay.
technical difficulties. Okay, go.
Yeah. So I remember I was heavily into the Beatles. And I think really
Heavily, I wasn't even into the Beatles, and I'm like way older than you. Keep talking.
I love the Beatles. They were like the people like before that, I think it was like Demi Lovato or like these big pop singers. Like I was into Demi Lovato, like a lot of like Miley Cyrus, like these pop
What year? What year were you born? 2000?
2000, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yes, I was like into the pop girls, like I don't know, like who else was around? I think it was
A lot of people.
yeah, like Britney Spears, there were more people. I can't think of them right now. But I was a big fan of Demi Lovato. I would always listen to her music. But that one stands out to me because I would always tell people how much I loved her. Um, but anyways, but when I was like in my teens, I started getting more into like that's what I was missing. I also really like 50s music, like the classic rock doo wop kind of sound.
Oh yeah. I had some Mexican friends in high school. They would always bump that, and it was so nice. It's like so lovely and lovely.
It's really pretty.
Like it'll never be like that again. What the fuck? Ugh.
I love this, like the messages they had. Like it was always like love, or like going like loving somebody, or have, like
It was so like pure.
Yeah, and I love that about that era, because the music is just so innocent and pure, but it's so classic. Like it still is played to this day, and I love that about that kind of
Yeah,
era.
it's timeless. You're right.
Yeah, it's very timeless, and I was really into people like Buddy Holly and like I forget their names, Little Richard, Chuck Berry, like all these like classic rockers. Even Elvis. I wasn't too big of a fan of Elvis, but I really like Frank Sinatra too, and all these like classic people from that era.
Yeah, I mean, those are all the amazing people.
Yeah, like they were really people who stood out to me, and I remember the reason I got into that music was because of the movie Grease. I really loved Grease, and I got into the 50s because of that movie. But yeah, later on in my life, I got into like the more classic rock sound, like the 60s and 70s, like bands like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. And I think the Beatles were like the first people where I realized that you could make music your career, and you can make music happen as like your job. And I didn't realize that until I looked at them, and
What do
I
you mean your career and your job?
like you could make a living out of playing music for people, and I didn't think of music that way, because I always thought music was something you did for fun, like as a hobby, and I thought that you can't really take it seriously. But then I realized, like, if they can do it, I'm sure many people have done it also. But
Yeah, I like it.
yeah, and then that's what got me into playing the guitar and writing my own songs, and from there I realized that writing, like I wrote before I started playing music, but writing has always been a way I express myself, and like singing melodies has also been a way I express myself. But then once I started playing the guitar, I put those things together, and I felt like my whole world like exploded, because I started writing all these stories and all
Wait,
these,
you felt like your whole world what?
like my whole world exploded in a way, in a good way.
Like you felt like the synergy, as they
Yeah,
say.
everything came together, which I love. And I was very much into writing now, and like songwriting, I guess, and I started playing guitar over and over again and writing all these melodies, and that I was singing, like I would sing melodies and try to play them on my guitar, and that's how I learned guitar in a way. And love I would be writing all day and all night. I would just do it consistently every day, because I
Do you want to be writer performer mostly, or do you want to write for other people too?
I both, because I think writing for other people, I love collaborating with people, and getting their vision out there and making it come to life. And I also like doing that with my own music and my own message. So yeah, I think both things are something that I would like to do, like, more later on.
Well, I'm then I might use you later because I'm trying to bring mental health and comedy and music together.
Oh really? Yeah, I actually have a friend doing the exact, not exact same thing, but almost similar to what you're doing. But yeah, I would love to help you.
So, where can the people find your music?
Right now I only have 5 songs, and they're like songs when because I was in a band, and those are the songs we recorded, because
Nice.
we would
Where
play.
are they uploaded on Instagram, YouTube? Where are they at?
You can
Where's the easiest place?
probably Spotify. You just search up Izzy, and you'll find me on there. And yeah, but or on Instagram might be easier. It's just Izzy the band, and all my links and all that are on that page. So it might be
I'll put that in the link.
okay. Yeah,
Um,
but yeah, that stuff I wrote when I was really young, like probably like 2017, 18. But
so you were 17, 18?
yeah, and then I recorded those like like not recently, but 2 years ago in 2021, I believe. And yeah, my
So
voice has changed drastically since those recordings. But there's a lot there.
Of course, you were younger, now you're older, and that's probably going to change even more later.
Yeah, but I do have music that I'm working on my own because I'm not in a band anymore. I'm like solo now. So
Yeah.
now I'm working on my own stuff, my own sound.
What style is it?
Um it's interesting because what you would hear is not what you expect me to be making. But I think right now it's kind of our like I would say R&B pop, like or like even like a little bit of hip hop influence or like trap because I really like trap and hip hop and like stuff like that. But I also love pop and indie music. I don't know. I like to mix the genres in a way.
Mix it up, mix it up.
Yeah. So it's like it sounds like not unexpected, but I it sounds what I want to make, if that makes sense.
Yeah, as it should be.
Yeah.
And then what else was I going to ask you before we go? Oh, so now would you say that you like can you feel yourself when you're getting down and you know what to do, or is it still like you have to go through the struggle?
I think I'm much better at differentiating when I am not feeling like myself and when I'm feeling a lot, either very like inflated kind of mood or very depressive mood. I can tell what's different about me. Now I can, and what I do now is I try to channel it into like my music mainly and also just talking to people. Like now I have really good friends and people in my life that I can be honest with and talk to and they'll understand me and they won't make me feel judged. And also like talking to my parents helps a lot too. But yeah, just talking to people, but also music is another thing that I've used to cope or channel that, and that's what I want to send out with my music is that message that if you're feeling if like it's okay to feel the way you do, you shouldn't feel ashamed or if don't feel like you have to hide yourself. It's always important to be yourself and never be ashamed to be yourself. And I think that's the message that I really want or that's the goal that I want to portray in my music because that's always been the way that's how music has always been there for me, and I want to be there for other people through my music, if that in a way, because it's helped me since my entire life. I can people
You
I
want
know.
to you want to pay it forward.
Yeah, exactly. Like I know that people feel the way I do, or like worse, or they feel like they're on the verge of, suicide or depression, anxiety, all those illnesses. And music is, for me at least, was one factor that's always made me feel like I wasn't alone in a sense. And I want my music to, do the exact same thing that it
Yeah.
did for me. So I would.
Yeah.
That's one of my goals.
I love that because that is important because that is all basically at the crux of my therapy. That's what I do all day is trying to help people feel more comfortable in their own skin, which is in turn going to make them attract the tribe they should, because if they're faking the funk, then they're not going to, the people that need to see them aren't going to see them. And they're never going to get to their people, which sucks for them because then they're just going to suffer,
Yeah, exactly. And that's you pointed out a good thing, like feel seen in a way and bring in like a whole group of people that feel the exact same way. Like I want.
What would you tell people who
Mhm.
are who feel like, no, that's bullshit. Meeting people isn't gonna help me because all people do is hurt me.
You know what, I used to be that way and I know exactly how they feel, very stubborn. You know, to those people, I would be like, you don't have to do that. You don't have to force yourself to be with people, Maybe you feel like this now, but I know you won't feel like this forever because things like this are only temporary and eventually I feel like loneliness does get to you.
So when
Yeah,
you did finally open that door, how did it help you to have people that you didn't think existed exist?
yeah, I never thought it existed. But
So that's the thing, right? That's why people kill themselves because they can't imagine people like exactly like them existing. That's why the group dynamic is so powerful, is that same time they're
yeah,
existing.
right, yeah. And so when I found these people, I felt like, you know, a little bit at ease because I wasn't going through it alone, and that made me feel a lot more comfortable with my own skin and just being myself. Because for so long I felt like I had to hide myself, and had to hide from being honest. And once I met people like that, I realized that you don't have to change yourself. You don't have to be ashamed of who you are. You can be honest and people will still accept you.
The
Um,
people that need to accept you will accept you, and the people that can't don't need to, and you don't need to worry about them.
yeah, I've always struggled with that because I always wanted to be accepted by everyone, but I realized that's just impossible. Not everyone's gonna like you. Not everyone's gonna be in
Not
agreement.
everyone should like you.
Yeah, like it's always gonna be people who are against you, and that's okay. Like there's never anything wrong with that because you know what? Those people just they're not for you, and that's fine. Like not everyone in the world is gonna be for you, and I think I had a hard time accepting that. But I realized that you know what? This whole world is filled with different kinds of people, and not everyone's the
Yes.
same. So we're all gonna be
Say
different.
it again. This world is filled with so many people. Half of them are going to love you and half of them are going to hate you. So if you
Yeah.
find one that you hate, don't hold on to that because that energy is going to kill you.
Right, and that's yeah, like, I did that for so long, like, I would always think about the negative things that people would tell me or all the criticisms, and, people still do that to me to this day about everything, like, criticize and say things or make me feel very insecure, but, like, it's important to not only hold on to those bad things because there are people in this world who support you and encourage you, you should hold on to things like that because they're trying to uplift you and they're trying to support you,
Yeah,
don't
and that's the thing. People think that if there's people who are going to support you and uplift you, won't be able to support you with your suicidal thoughts because that's too much. That's the problem, right? People think those people don't exist. So I
yeah.
think exactly right. Music, any creative outlet. And then if you are a person who thinks that no one can understand you, just believe that there's a lot of people out there that think that way. So you're not special and you're not alone.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with you on that because no one is ever alone in anything. There's always going to be someone or something that's
But
well,
it's the depression that tricks you into thinking
yeah,
that you are alone. It's literally a mind fuck.
it's crazy. But yeah, it's very true. It's always exactly. That's why it's one of the symptoms. Like that's why you feel these symptoms of loneliness or hopelessness because you feel like there's no one there for you. But really, there are people there for you. Just you're being blinded by this thing in your mind that's taking over and it's
Oh,
getting
exactly. Yeah. What were you saying?
oh yeah that it's getting the best of you and it's just making you
Getting the best of you. It's literally killing the best of you.
exactly it's killing yeah it's killing everything that's good about you because it's making you think that you are nothing, like you're worth nothing and you're just going to be nothing forever and
Exactly.
that's
It's that it convinces you that you're worth nothing. And how can that feel good to anyone? I said the same thing with another podcast that I had my friend on, that
mhm,
depression is actually the word depression is depressing you.
exactly.
Depressing you. That means it's depressing you so much that you flatten out and you die. You want to die. You want to keep going lower and lower and lower and lower and lower and down into the ground, 6 feet under.
And that's yeah exactly how you described it. It's like you want to just you never like you're going in a deep dark hole and you can't seem to find the way out. You're just digging yourself in a deeper hole and it seems like you're gonna stay there forever. And that's how depression I think feels like. It's like you're going into this dark world, not even a world, it's like a place of darkness that you can't get out of and it's never ending. But
Yep.
it's temporary. And that's what I want to remind people. You're not going to feel this way forever because you won't know happiness until you feel some type of sadness. Because if you're happy all the time, you're not going to know what happy is. It's just something that you feel. And if you're sad all the time, you're not going to know happiness. So I think there's a balance between both. And
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
that's
If
it.
you're happy all the time, then that becomes nothing.
Yeah,
If
it
you're
becomes
sad all the time, then it also becomes nothing. So
yeah.
to feel a range of emotions is good. To know that you actually do have control over your nervous system if you try to regulate it, whether with exercise, music, singing, some sort of outlet that's
Yeah.
going to, make you feel like your chemistry and nervous system went through a change, then you're going to feel different. The problem is a lot of times, more often than not, people do end up committing suicide when drugs or alcohol is involved, because that makes people not themselves anymore. And now, so that fucks it up too. But for the most part, if you're thinking about these things and if you're aware, you can do better and control it better and have less, put yourself in a chemistry that you're less likely to have these negative reactions.
Exactly. I think being aware of it is, like you said, is so important, because I think once you are aware of it, you start to make different choices in your life. Or maybe not, but at least you're aware of what you're feeling. And, some people are not, and they continue to, make themselves, like, they continue to, I don't know if the word is like self harm themselves, and they don't even know it, but they continue to do it no matter what. And I think that's something that's important, is to recognize that what you're feeling is something and not just a feeling, because it's causing you to do all these bad things to yourself. Then there's something wrong. So it's good to recognize actions or recognize things that are not helping you or anything.
And recognize things that are helping you and have them ready to go. So it's not just, have some things ready to go that you can do in the moment, such as take a cold shower, hot shower, call a friend, have 5 friends that you can call, and then more long-term things like working out, places you can go. But it's so important to have something you can do in the moment that's reachable, not something that's like too hard to reach,
Oh, exactly. And then that's why I got so heavily involved in like music and meeting people in the music scene. And, I started like producing and trying to learn engineering and all this stuff. And it's really helped me channel. And
yeah, you're making beats, huh? I'm gonna need a beat soon.
yeah, now I'm learning, or I've been doing it for so long, but now I'm starting to do it for other people, because I feel
Nice.
like I'm a little better.
Cool.
Yeah, so
Which program have you learned through?
Right now I learn Logic. Yeah.
Oh, Logic. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
Logic is something that I love. Yeah.
I'm gonna drop a mental health album, and each track is gonna be called something different, like depression, anxiety, suicide.
I love that. That's something I would love to help on, because that's one of the things that I want to do is, well, like I mentioned before, like put mental health in the forefront when it comes to my music, because that's the message that I want to get across to people. Yeah, I like that idea that you have with like a mental health album. Yeah, I would love to.
I'm actually having a friend come up with, he's in the music industry, and he's gonna produce my first beat, and it's gonna be called "Don't Kill Yourself," and I'm gonna rap because
It's cool.
I'm having a midlife crisis.
It's okay. Like, I feel the same way. Like, oh no, what's going on in my life? It reminds me of that one song by Queen that says "Don't try suicide," and I love it because it's so unserious, but it's also giving you like, don't actually commit suicide.
A real message.
Yeah, because there's so many people that do it, and I like the message that they gave in that song. And I just love that group in general. But yeah, that's what it reminded me of. But I like the messages that people give, and there's also a lot of new artists that are doing that now with mental health, which I like a lot.
That's true. Will you send me some of them on Insta? Because I don't know them.
I would love to. Yeah, there's a lot actually that.
And if you know any of them that would want to come on and talk too about stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, I could ask them. Well, actually, no, they're a lot bigger than me, but I could try to. But yeah, I'll send you their information and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, anything else for the people before we go? Any final words of wisdom that you feel like you've learned through your journey that's valuable?
Yes.
I mean, you already told us most of it, but anything else?
I just want to say that, what you're feeling right now is only temporary. It's not going to be forever. And it's important to recognize what you're feeling, and don't ever feel ashamed or feel bad, or if you're ever being judged, never hide yourself. Always be proud of who you are and just express yourself and love yourself.
What if they're not proud? What if they'll fight you and say, I have nothing to be proud of?
If you have nothing to be proud of, then try to find one good thing in your life that you think makes you just a little happy, even if it's 2% happier.
Shit. I lost you for a second. You said find one good thing in your life that what?
Oh yes. So find at least one good thing in life that makes you even like 2% happier. You don't have to be happy. I'm not asking you to be happy and like smiling the next day. I'm just saying find something
Baby steps.
like that. Yeah, like small steps that make you feel like you're like your life is not all bad. Because no one's life, your life is not terrible. Believe me.
I like it when you said 2%. So
Yeah,
just give yourself 2% better per day, and soon you'll do better.
exactly. Just do it little by little.
Yay.
Like your life is not all bad because you're
You got to
still
find
here.
the good.
You gotta
Some
find the
people
good.
do have pretty fucked up lives, especially right now with a lot of things, but
Mm. You know what? I
2%.
Yeah. I just there are people that I know too that are struggling with stuff like that. But like, 2% better each day.
2% at a time is all you need.
Yeah,
For
because
that.
you can't go from 1 to 100 in a day. You have to do it little by little.
Exactly.
So just do it little by little each day. Or if you don't even have to do it consistently, just find something in your life because you're here for a reason and you're here because you're meant to do something here. Whether it's to change one person's life or many people, it doesn't matter. But
That's true.
you're
I love that because it is true. Everybody does have something good to offer, even if they
Mhm.
don't know it yet. It's there.
Yeah,
And that's another
exactly.
thing we do in therapy is just to get you to self-explore.
Yeah, self-explore because a lot of times people don't find something that they're good at or something that they might like to do in their life, and you don't know until you find out. And
Exactly.
it's so easy to give up, but it's good to at least keep trying because once you do, it's like almost like a release in a way, like you found something new about yourself that you never thought would be possible, you never thought would be there. So just even if it seems like it's never ending, just try one more time or keep trying. Like you never know when it's gonna happen, and you're not living this life for nothing. It's a reason that you're here, and like I said before, you might impact one person or 100 people. I don't know, but you're doing something and you're doing something right. What you're doing is not wrong. It's not incorrect. It's just who you are. So just be okay with that. And
And if you think it's wrong, maybe somebody else thinks it's wrong, but all it was a maladaptive behavior to something you went through, and there's a reason for everything.
yeah, don't let anyone's words get the best of you because I have fallen victim to that so many times. Many people have told me like I'm not good enough or you're not important or stuff that will just make you feel worthless. So don't listen to those people because those people are not for you. Those people are never going to be for you. So just stick with who you are, and even if you don't know who you are, be with yourself and just see what you are with no one around. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
what I would say
I
because
like it.
we change so much with people around us with our environment, but
Until you find the people you don't need to change around.
yeah, which is the best thing ever. So
Best thing ever.
yeah, so I would say, if you don't have people like that in your lives yet, you will. But
Yeah.
just stick with yourself and or go
You
on.
will, but you have to make sure you're letting go of the people in your life who are actually keeping that.
Right, and that's an important thing to do. I know it may be hard because, other people have feelings and they might make you feel guilty or whatever it is, but if those people are not good to you or not helping you at all moving forward with your life, then you don't need them around because they're just going to be leeching off you and making you feel less of a person, and that's even worse, and that's a terrible feeling to have. So, even if you're by yourself, that's okay because I was alone for so long and I didn't have any friends for a very long time. But I found stuff that made me feel like I was less alone, like music or writing or singing melodies and stuff like that. And that's not people. Those are things that not even tangible things. Like music is just sound. And I enjoyed that for so long and I still do. And I just now found people that I could talk to and be okay with. So that's what I'm saying. Like, you don't need people like all the time. You can be by yourself and you can be okay with being by yourself, and that's fine. You know, you can find something you like just by being by yourself. You could do whatever you want by yourself, There's no one there to stop you because you're on your own. But it's not good to be alone all the time either. You know, have something that makes you feel like you have some kind of company. It doesn't have to
Balance. You
be,
need a balance.
yeah, balance, you know? So I think that's one thing. Just be okay with who you are and just be okay with being alone sometimes. But not completely alone because, you know, you gotta have some kind of company, whether it's a person or something simple as music or, you know, playing a game or I don't know what it is, but you know, whatever you enjoy, because everyone has a hobby, or if you don't have a hobby, well, now's your time to find one. So yeah.
So wait, before we go, is that your full name? Is it Sel?
Itzel, yeah. I go by it, well, people call me Izzy, but I go by Itzel all the time. Everyone calls me either or. I don't mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming through. And whenever you want to come back and talk some more, please do. Would love to have you.
Yes, I would love to come back. I love talking to you. This is so fun. This is my first time doing like a face-to-face podcast thing, so this was an amazing experience. Thank you so much
It's
for
cool,
having me.
right? It's like it's interesting through this weird platform.
Yeah, and then I love like talking about mental health, especially with people who are experienced and you know in that world because they like understand. Like you understood everything I was talking about. So yeah,
Good job.
yeah, exactly. And I love that. So I would love to do it again or like even
Hell yeah, we shall.
yeah, and
Thank
even like
you.
stuff with you. I don't
What'd you
know,
say?
but yeah. But it was great having you, or it was great like being here. Thank you so much again. It was
Thank
great.
you. And yeah, so if anybody wants support for suicidal ideation, hit me up on my other Instagram, Free Will Therapy, and I
Mhm.
will see about starting a group.
Mhm. Yeah, that would be great. I would love to be involved in that.
Yeah, okay. Sweet. All right, bye everyone.
Take care.